Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, or the true leaders of Israel today. And salutations to all of the Akim who do this work in truth and sincerity, praising their lives and their freedom to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen, but are not, by way of their forefathers, seeds or Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushua, and the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as we are the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. My name is Akalia, and this video is on the topic of the Israelites and the so-called Africans who are the Hamites. And there's a misconception in this world because of the people that are ruling, who are the so-called white people, and they are the biblical Edomites. They have put out a deception into the world where, well, as the scripture says in the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24, that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, which they are, and he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So he covered the faces of the judges. And who are the judges? Those are us, the Israelites, the Lord's holy chosen people. And what they've done is that they've put a deception out there to cause confusion of the nations and who they are, etc. And so they put names upon the nations such as themselves. They call themselves so-called white people. They call the Chinese people so-called Chinese. They call the Arabs so-called, the Japanese so-called, etc. But the thing is that we originate from our biblical nationalities, which are, the so-called white man, they're the Edomites. The so-called Chinese, they're the Moabites. The so-called Arabs, they're the Ishmaelites. The so-called East Indians, right? And Iranians, they are the Elamites, right? And then you have what is known as the Pacific Islanders, like the Hawaiians, that's the tribe of Japhet. And then you have the Africans, right? The Africans, they are from the nation of Ham. They are not the same people as us. And that's a part of the deception in the world where Esau Edom placed all kinds of different names upon us, which is a part of the curses. It's written in the book of Deuteronomy that it says you shall be a byword and a proverb, right? Which means that we wouldn't be called what we truly are, which are the Israelites. Instead, we've been called Negro, Black, African American, and whatever else, they've called us. And so this deception also is that, the history is that we came from the slave ships, right? From West Africa. And so Esau Edom told the world, these so-called white people told the world that we are Africans. And so that's why eventually we got the names put upon us of African American, like over there in America, right? They call them, our people, the African Americans. And so by that, people growing up in the world are like, okay, well, you're called African Americans and, you look this way, right? So you're African. But yes, so the thing about it is that another part of the deception. Esau Edom has put an emphasis on the flesh, carnality, right? Esau Edom put an emphasis on what you look like. And so they say that if you look black, right, the idea of what, that is that you're black. If you look like the idea of what is white, you're white. If you look like the idea of Chinese, you're Chinese. If you look like the idea of this and that, that's what you are. But that's not how it really works. The nations are separate. The people of this world are separated into nations, and the nations go back to their biblical heritage, and that's what they truly are. All right, and we're truly the Israelites, and the so-called Africans, they are the Hamites. Now, this topic came up because I've seen this video from the brother Endure These Last Days 4. I'm gonna subscribe to him. I think he has others too. I think I'm subscribed to maybe another one of his channels, maybe like an Endure These Last Days 3, because they be striking our channels. But you Africans ain't ish. STFU Africans, the ones who sold so-called Negroes into slavery, and that is true, right? These people who are the so-called Africans or the Hamites, they sold us into slavery, All right. Now, you see, people, because Esau Edom put out there, the ways of the flesh, right? To in many different ways, but in this specific instance, is to look at a person and say, "Oh, you belong to this nation," but that's not what it is at all about. Okay, it's about the spirit, right? In the book of Romans chapter 8 and verse 16, it says, "For the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of Yahweh Shemishai, and we are the Spirit." Our spirit shows that we're the children of Yahweh Shemishai, which means that we're the children of God, which means that we're the children of Israel, right? The nation of Israel. Our spirit bears witness to that, and our spirit bears witness to it. One way is, we're suffering. Well, we're suffering under the curses, but then, when you do meet an individual, right, you can't just, no matter what an individual looks like, you can't just judge them and say, "Oh, he's an Israelite, oh, he's a Moabite, oh, he's of whatever nation," right? You can't judge them based on looking at them, right? Because it is all about the spirit. And so we are all spirits, and the spirit is put into, it has the flesh, right? The flesh, the spirit is, you can say stored, right? So we're in the bodies of flesh, but we are the spirit. We have a spirit, right? So each spirit belongs to a nation. So, like right now, you can't judge an Israelite based off of what they look like. Now, the thing is that there is a certain look to the nations, right? Which all of the nations, except for the nation of Edom, who are the so-called white people, all of the other nations are brown and are of different shades of brown, right? Then you have different hair textures and whatever else, whatever it is. Then you have the Edomites, where they are just red, okay, and you can see that we know their look, okay. So the thing about it is that, the look isn't so important. You always have to judge the spirit, because even with the Israelites, you can't just look at a so-called Negro and judge that person as an Israelite, because there has been a lot of mingling. So even right now, you have people that are, they look white, or they look Japanese, or they look Chinese, etc. But those are Israelites by way of their forefathers' seeds. You see? So there's a lot going, there's a lot happening, but it all stems from the spirit of Yahweh Shemishai. So it is our spirit that bears witness. And if children, then heirs, um heirs, is it heirs of Yahweh, and joint heirs with Yahushua, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may also that we may be also glorified together. So it's our spirit that bears witness, right? It's our spirit that believes sincerely in Yahweh Shemisha, and the scriptures say that, it wasn't given unto the heathen, right? Like here, in Psalms 149, is it 149? Maybe 147. Right. Psalms 147 and verse 19. He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh. So only an Israelite can receive this word. Only an Israelite can sincerely believe in Yahweh Shemishai. So that is how our spirit bears witness. Right. So if you see somebody that looks like a so-called white man, and he is telling you that he believes sincerely in Yahweh Shemisha, and he believes in the doctrine fully and everything, you know what I'm saying, and he's sincere, you cannot deny him. His spirit bears witness that he is an Israelite. Okay? So, our belief as well shows that, of course, because we believe in this word, we believe in Yahweh Shemishai, that is the spirit of an Israelite, because once again, it is only for us. Salvation is only for us. Belief is only for us. The promises is only for us, etc. Okay, so with all of that being said, people really believe that, like, the people that you see over here in the Caribbean islands and in America, etc., that we are of like African, grouping us up with those people, but we're not. It's as simple as that. And in the book of Exodus, the video itself, basically the video of this female, she's saying that, actually, I can just play the little beginning of it.
Do not, Black Africans and African Americans do not claim Black Americans. We are not the same. African tends to focus on...
Okay, so she says whatever, no need to listen to the rest that she says, but there is truth to it. If she's meaning, as I'm interpreting it, which she's saying that like the Africans from Africa are not the same people as what is known as Black Americans in America. And it's true because our people are scattered to the four corners of the earth, right? So our people are dwelling among every single nation. That's a part of the curses. So you have our people that are dwelling among the so-called Africans over there in Africa and looking just like them. You know what I'm saying? Because, with the nations, the looks can look the same. Like, you can see an Arab and be like, oh, wow, he looks like a Jake, like a Negro, right? You can see even an Indian person, and certain of them, you could say, oh, he looks like a Negro. You know what I'm saying? So it's not about any of that. It's all about the spirit. So our spirit, we're Israelites, and they are the spirit of Ham. So let's take a look at in the book of Exodus, chapter 11 and verse 7. It says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how the Lord Yahweh doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So we were in ancient Egyptian captivity, and those people were ruling the Egyptians, and the Egyptians, they belong to a specific nation, right? Because we, the Israelites, which is another nation, we were subject to them. We were their slaves. So you see, two different nations already. And those ancient Egyptians, we know what they look like. You can look at those people in Sudan and stuff like that. They have that look, right? They have what people would deem in this world. They say that they look black, right? But us as well, they say that we look black too. But it's two different nations. All right. So the Lord says that He doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel, and then I want to get this here, because in the video, right, they shows this part in it, right, where you have some so-called black-looking individuals, right? They could pass as like Negroes in America, right? But look at what they're doing, all right? They're eating monkeys, okay? Now, an Israelite in their right state of mind automatically sees this and is completely disgusted, as I am looking at this image right now. But, these are the ways of the heathen. This is what they do. Right, they eat unlawful food, stuff like that. And over there in Africa, those tribes over there, the Hamites, they have all kinds of different kind of rituals over there, and all kinds of tribes and all those kinds of stuff, where when you speak to an Israelite in America, that really belong to the nation of Israel, our people will see their customs and what they do and be completely disgusted by it. That's the spirit showing itself, Even if Jake isn't in his right state of mind, you know what I'm saying, and believing in Yahweh Shemishan still in the world, there's still something to Jake's spirit where they will see this kind of behavior right here on screen and be completely disgusted by it. Because, that is not how we're built. That is not our way. Okay? So, we're two different nations, man. Here it is. So I got this from the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary. Okay, so this is a screenshot. And it talks about Ham. It says, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. You see, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites came from Ham, which is the different from the Negroes. The Negroes, who are us, the Israelites, specifically of the Southern Kingdom, okay, because Northern Kingdom are the Latinos, Native American, Seminole Indians. we're the Israelites. All right. We come from Shem, they come from Ham. Two completely different nations. And so I have a bit of a story, a very quick story actually. When I was in college, I knew this girl from Africa. She was born and raised in Africa. She was born and raised in Nigeria. And one day she told me, now I wasn't in the truth at the time. She was telling me her grievances, and she was saying that in Africa, in Nigeria, the people there, certain people there, she said the Africans there, they treat her very poorly. And she says that they treat her very poorly. And she asked them one day, why do you treat me so poorly? Are we not all African, and are we all not black? And they said to her, apparently, they said, no, we're not the same people. You are different. You know? And at the time when she told me that story, I didn't know exactly, because I was still in the world at that time. So when she told me that story, my reaction being in the world was, wait a second, why would they tell you that we're all black? You know what I'm saying? Like, the mentality of the world. And she was like, yeah, I know. It was just like really strange that they would treat me different. And then they also told me that I am a different, I'm different from them, I'm different people from them, but I don't understand, So, but being in this truth and looking back at that situation and the story of it all, I can clearly see the spiritual aspect of it. Those individuals in Nigeria that were telling her, and I can judge her spirit, I believe she's an Israelite based off of knowing her, they could already tell from their spirit, the spirit, that she's not of Ham, she's not a Hamite, she's not an African. You know what I'm saying? She's a different nation. So that was a very spiritual situation when looking back at it. Okay, so also the brother mentioned here that we were sold into slavery. So in the book of Joel chapter 3, and verse 1, it says, I'll start at verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? And that's talking about the so-called Africans, man, who are the Hamites, and all the coasts of Palestine. And the Palestinians are talking about the so-called Arabs, okay, who are the Ishmaelites. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. And who are the Grecians? The Edomites, the so-called white man, that ye might remove them far from their border. So what happened when they gathered us up in 1619 was that the so-called Africans and the so-called Arabs were gathering up our people, the Israelites, and were selling them to the Edomites. So they have a hand in our destruction, okay, and our captivity. The Africans that our own people believe that they are. You know what I'm saying? But we're not. We're two different nations. They are of Ham, and we are of Shem, and we're the Israelites, and they're the Hamites. All right. So with that, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Shem Yeshua, Shem Kodesh. Shalom.